So guys, here's your brand new CLE Coupe. And there's 6 reasons that I already love it. And that is that it's got a beautiful 6-cylinder engine as well. And to be honest, it really looks the part as well. What do you guys think of that? What is a CLE? A CLE is an amalgamation of both C Coupe and E Coupe into one model line. So both of those are now gone, replaced by a car that kind of sits in the middle in a lot of ways, in terms of design, in terms of technology, and in terms of the cars that it kind of links to in the past. And that is basically a summary of everything that we'll be covering today. But for now, let's have a quick look around it, because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous looking coupe. Mercedes always known for making some of the best looking two-doors in the world. I think no exception here. Front, as you can see, very typical AMG line. So you've got a nice wide and long grille with the single louvre, shark nose on the front, bonnet domes, very, very E-Class lower A-wing, but then very, very C-Class above here. So that's all nice. It's a nice, like we said, mix of both model lines. It's all about the side view in the coupes as well, and this is very classical Mercedes coupe. It just reminds me of C-Class, particularly this little cut here, which is a lot more C than it was E. I know everyone's going to ask, it's not a pillarless coupe. There is a B pillar in there. It never bothered me in C-Class. And then from E-Class, we've got these really strong cuts on both shoulders that kind of, you can see, really defined. That is sharp. But then it tapers away completely in the middle of the door so that it once again becomes quite obvious above each wheel arch. And I see you've gone to that side because the rear is really what you want to see, right? Rear is always controversial these days with Mercedes-Benz. This looks quite nice. It's very similar to kind of GLC. I can see the comments coming about it looks like this car and it looks like that car. Perhaps it's a strange one. When I look at it from far away, dead on, as if I was following this car, and you see the width of kind of the rear arches, and then the light bar all kind of makes sense, then it looks good. I think on first look, you're like, well, really? And you're not kind of sure. But this is a very quick first look at it. I'll show you the interior as well. Let's first talk a little bit more in detail about this car. So guys, some big changes happening to the model portfolio of Mercedes-Benz, and it's a lot of consolidation, a lot of cancellations, a lot of amalgamations. For example, C and E Coupe are cancelled. CLS in the future, it's finished, it's cancelled. The SUV Coupes apparently will eventually be cancelled off as well, so that's GLC and GLE, and A-Class series in its entirety is cancelled. And of course, one of the biggest casualties was the beautiful S Coupe. So a lot of our favourites gone, and then a lot kind of amalgamated into other cars, no doubt they'll do that. This is really the first example with CLE, where it's doing the job of both C Coupe and E Coupe in one car, not unlike what the CLK was doing in the past. So it's kind of not unlike what rival houses have done with like the 4 Series and the A5, where it sits a bit higher than the lower model and a bit more sporty than the higher model used to be into one car. Now, one thing that I was really interested in about this car in particular is size and dimension versus those other previous cars. So what I can tell you is, essentially, it's a lot longer than both C and E Coupe, which I was quite surprised with. I thought it might be the same size as previous E. So it's longer than both of them. It's the same width as the E Coupe used to be, and thus a bit wider than C Coupe. But then I guess when you compare it to C63, probably is a kind of more similar size in terms of length, etc. Again, to compare it with model families, compared to W206, it's longer. Compared to 214 E Class, it's shorter. Again, just giving you that perspective that it is sitting right in the middle of those cars. What's more interesting to me is in terms of engines, like I said, 6 reasons why I love this car already, is that we are going to get a 6-cylinder right at the top. But then in engines, it's actually quite similar to E-Class in getting the mix of 4 and 6 rather than just having 4. So we do start with a C200 around about 204 brake horsepower, and then that goes all the way up to 380 horsepower in our CLE 450 4MATIC. In between that, you've got a load of other variants which I've listed up there, and those will be available from launch. There will also be plug-in hybrids for the coupe And one thing that I can tell you today as well is that the Cabriolet is coming out at the exact same time. That's what it looks like, and it comes with the same engine variants, but no plugins planned for that one. So this is a really good sign. A, we've got a car that has the efficiency engines, should you want them, but what Mercedes really wanted to do is make sure those of us who are enthusiasts still get the type of engine that makes us excited. So the 6-cylinder is in there with the CLE 450, which is flipping great news. In terms of suspension, it's your typical multi-link front, 5-link rear, all steel-based suspensions. You either have a comfort suspension, which does what it says on the tin. You've got the sport suspension, which also does what it says on the tin. It's a bit more rigid in every single regard, spring rates, rigidity, etc. And then you have the adaptive dampers as well, which again, typically for Mercedes-Benz give you the best of both worlds. So as you're driving, they will adapt to make it either more comfortable or more dynamic thanks to the active dampers. Now we're going to get up close and personal with the exterior and the interior, but before then, you guys know I love history and heritage of cars, just like you guys do. So I want to talk a little bit about how the design has evolved. As I said, Mercedes have been instrumental when it's come to the two-door coupe. It all started in the mid-size for them with the W214. It's a gorgeous looking car, as all Mercedes coupes have been in the past. And what's cool is when I get to the interior section, you're going to see that evolution as well, where everything kind of links as it goes through the eras. So that was a beautiful car. Then we went to W123, again quite similar to that. You've got the the standard Mercedes grille, which was nice. But for me, it's got to be W124 for a number of reasons. A, because it spawned our first proper AMG Hammer, but B, it's just a gorgeous car, and I'm biased because I've got my own 124 in sedan, but that is still today, I think I'd love to own one of these. This then kind of matured, or perhaps some people wouldn't say that, with the CLK, which I still think is a beautiful car. This is the 55 here, and it's a good looking car, quite soft, I think, quite soft. It got way better when it went to W204. That was a car and a half in terms of sporty cars. It was the first to bring in the sportier grille on the front, which was a huge hit. Of course, this came all in facelift because it wasn't in the initial cars. And then it spawned the incredible 6.2 litre C63 Coupe. So very fond memories for all of us of this car. W205, very similar to our new car in terms of the body shape, unsurprising. And again, for me, it's probably my favorite Mercedes model of the modern era. I think that's right. I think I do love it that much. And it's nice how this new car looks a lot like that, which is cool. And I want to show you just how much it does and how much it links to E Class. So let's have another quick look around the outside, and then I'll show you everything about the interior as well. So what I always love when I see a car like this, and I'm trying to relay it to you guys, is to actually walk around it physically as if it was my own eyes looking at it. So then you really get an idea of proportions and stuff. So this is a coupe, as you know, so you really need to get an idea, 3/4 kind of, how the whole roof line is playing with us. We've got the nice long bonnet, which is so, classical Mercedes coupe, which is nice. That is all very C Class, don't you guys agree? Very C Class kind of roof line, which is a good thing, because I think the C Coupe roof line historically has always been so much better than the E Coupe one. So I like that. I like that whole, that's nice. That's a lot more sporty. The little cuts that you have on each wheel arch really help, like we saw with E Class as well. That's more so actually if I go around the rear. Now this is what I mean, that you can't judge kind of that rear end and the lights without seeing it properly. This is the view I was talking about, where you're directly behind it and it looks actually bloody nice. And then you get that kind of the feeling of the widened arches when you're far away as well. And you can see it's got a nice booty directly from behind. That is nice. One thing that's really going to upset all of you, I know, is that. And it's the same on the other side. I don't know why they do it. Just have no exhaust, like BMW decided on the 5 Series. That's just silly. And then you've got the low diffuser is nice enough. This kind of curves upward, which I'm not sure about. This is completely flush against this, which again is different to our previous generations. The lights are nice. They're very same compared to all the other coupes. So all coupes having that same style. You've got the block in between. This does not light up. So it's like GLC, exactly the same. If we pop this open, big boot, same size as E Coupe. I think it was something like 460 litres, I can't remember. I know you guys aren't that bothered by those kind of technical facts. But yeah, that's all good. From the rear, just like C Coupe, you've got your little kind of fake vent, which I don't mind. It's a nice little design feature. I'm okay with that. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of what it's like walking around the car. These wheels I'm not a big fan of. They're the aero wheels. And you'll find them, you know, similar design to this on a lot of Mercedes now. Helps with efficiency and stuff, but not really the prettiest. Getting a bit close on the front. The lights are nice. These are your digital lights, and they've got this lovely blue wave inside, which is quite nice. You notice the 2 dots rather than singular like you have on C Class. So this is more like the E Class element coming into this. The light shape is beautiful, very nice. It's a little bit got that little curve, hasn't it, like E Class does? Little bit, very slight. That's kind of a nod to it to say, yes, kind of like I'm your cousin from, you know, brother from another mother type thing. The star pattern on the lower, just like E Class. Like I said, that lower bit is very, very E. Now, one thing I found interesting is we've got no side sill. And what I mean by that is there's no trim on this lower part. Of course, the previous C Class had a nice kind of black trim insert that would match kind of your night package or whatever, but there's nothing there. It's just a plain look, which is an interesting design decision. It doesn't look bad. It looks a bit cleaner. I think the AMG will probably have a trim piece in there to differentiate it, but we shall see. So guys, you've seen the interior, you've seen the exterior, you've seen all the tech bits. One thing I love talking about, you guys love hearing about, is the future. Let's talk a little bit about AMG. Now, of course, if they're having a CLE 450 4MATIC sitting at the top of the standard Mercedes-Benz versions of this car, why on earth would you have a 4-cylinder AMG for, say, the CLE 53 or 43 or whatever they might call it? That's one thing I've got a bit of confusion over, actually. What do you think they'll call it? What do you think they should call it? I think they should do 53, because it'll probably be a 6-cylinder. It has to be, right? Why would you do a 4-cylinder if you've got a 6-cylinder in the lower lineup? It wouldn't make sense. So I'm hedging my money on the fact that the AMG CLE 53, hopefully, will be a 6-cylinder, mild hybrid setup car, not unlike our C43. Of course, all the rigidity and struts and shear panels, etc., that you find in the C43. Will it be a hand-built engine? I really hope so, because that really, it made the C43 seem like a high-value car to me. That will all no doubt go to your usual gearbox, etc. No fancy heavy hybrid system in that particular car, I think. And then of course we have seen spy shots of the more powerful model. This is even more confusing for me. CLE 63 E Performance. What will that end up being in terms of power? Probably the 4-cylinder hybrid that you find in C63, probably, which is super weird if our 53 is a 6-cylinder, right? But we will have to see. If it does have that, then it's your M139 engine, P3 hybrid setup, massive horsepower, you know, up to 680 brake, and all the clever stuff done to make it a good handling car, but then, you know, rubbish sound, etc., and no emotion. If we're really lucky, then we might get a 6-cylinder version, but I can't see that on the cards. So, look, there's some negatives, there's some big positives as well in terms of AMG. I think it's going to look great, as I've rendered here for you, with the grille, just suiting this body shape of car. I think larger wheels as well for the AMG versions as well, because they've got some really sweet wheels, if nothing else, in the current versions. Yeah, some good positivity here. Okay, my friends, now we're going to head inside, where it's all going to look rather familiar to you. There's that first look, which is, of course, almost exactly the same as C Class, which is no bad thing, because whatever you want to say about it, the C Class has a fantastic modern interior, and we've got some very unique seats. So these seats are the only seats available on CLE, and they're very sporty. Nice bolsters on the side, really nicely trimmed, very modern kind of headrest area as well. As you can see, it's very nicely designed. Got a little leather pulley here, which will pull the seats back. I'll show you in a sec. But generally, those are some good looking seats. Front section, typical C Class, but a bit higher, a bit more coupe-like. We'll sit inside in a second, I'll show you that. In terms of our rear, let's pull our little leather strap back here. And now you'll see a larger interior than we had in C Coupe, and pretty much the same as E Coupe. You've got some nice ambient lighting right at the back over there, which is a nice touch. And yeah, all of that very familiar. The seats look nice, very similar to the front in the way that they're shaped, so that's very cool. You've got a nice big sunroof at the top here as well, which is going to let in a lot of light and air, which is great. So this is my view of the interior. Just like C Class, your screen here points a bit towards you. One thing I was a bit sad about is that we haven't got the 3D screen that the E Class has. If they were going to, bring in a bit of E Class flavor to this car, that would have been really nice, because I love the 3D screen. I love how it makes the dials look like they're analog because they're kind of floating. But this is a lovely interior. We've always liked the C Class interior. The structure is just, like you saw, it builds upon, 205 so well, and it still links to kind of the old cars. So I'm a big fan of this interior. It's even better with the carbon fiber. Of course, you've got the extended ambient lighting, which is absolutely gorgeous. And now the updated MBUX, which is great. Of course, I've left this on here for you to look at. Bit of Angry Birds, never hurt anyone. I kind of rolled my eyes at this when they first put it in, but having used it, I can imagine my kids using it. I can imagine me using it sometimes as well, and I'm waiting outside a shop for the missus or something. I don't know. But yeah, we can play a bit of Angry Birds. I'm not bad at this game, I consistently get 3 stars because I was an addict of this. Additionally, the big updates on MBUX is kind of the simplicity factor, where you can see we've just got bigger icons that kind of, they call it smartphone colored now. So a bit more easy to remember what they are. And you've got even the reflective kind of, shade on the icons, just like you do on iPhone and stuff. It's fine, it makes it all a bit easier to press. I still don't like this 0 layer or home screen, so I always kind of default to the simpler one, which is Classic, and that is way easier to understand. You've got simpler maps there, easier to read icons, etc. So that's great. This is a nice update to MBUX. It seems like it simplified it, and it really has in so many ways. Like even you go into settings, and everything is so easy to find now. You guys love looking at ambient lighting, so we'll do a quick kind of multicolor. So easy to change all of this. Go into red, go into green. Of course, you can ask Mercedes to do all of that for you as well, should you wish. But yeah, good system. Drive zone is good. Like I said, I wish it was 3D, but I'm not going to nitpick too much on that. You've got your different screens in there. So you've got just 2 options really, which is Sport and Classic. Understated is gone. Maybe it'll come back, but it's not in this particular car. Then you've got full maps, you've got assistance, you've got other bits and pieces like heads-up display, which can match your sport style. And that changes based on the content that you want to see. The overall thing for me sitting in this interior is I like how it really cocoons you well, just like the W205 C Class did. So I like that element of, it's distinctively coupe, despite the fact that it looks the same as C. You sat a bit lower, which is nice. The seating position is nice. The seats are nice, as I said. And you're in no doubt that you're sitting in a coupe version of a familiar car. As soon as you jump in, very familiar. C Class, of course, right? And I love that interior. But what's a bit different is that you're seated that much lower. Your front dash is a bit higher. It's kind of surrounding you a little bit more, or actually a lot more. Of course, the doors help in that regard, that kind of cocoon feeling. But really, it's a big, big upgrade if you look at, compared to the standard C Class Coupe of last time and the E Coupe, because I think the C Class Coupe was a better looking car inside and out in the last generation. And this one, well, kicks the shit out of both of those in terms of interior. It's amazing. I still think it's better than S Class in a lot of ways, the structure of this new style of interior. If we look at our classics that we mentioned previously, going all the way from W114 to your W123, to your W124, and even the CLK, there are certain elements that are always quite similar. The vent's a little bit similar. Your center console always kind of looks the same. This element, which has evolved over time, but all very similar. And kind of the seating position and how you feel inside the car. It all links nicely back to those cars. I love the seats. I love the seating position. I like how you have the stronger bolsters on these versus the normal C Class. It's comfortable, it's sporty, you know. I'm left in no doubt that I'm sitting in a C Coupe style of car, and I liken this a lot more to C Coupe than E Coupe, which is, believe me, a good thing. All of us prefer C Coupe for its sportiness, and you get that when you sit in this immediately. You feel like you're sitting in a sporty car, and I can't wait to try the 6-cylinder version. Keep talking about it. This is the best thing. Best thing. So guys, that's your new CLE Coupe, merging C and E Coupe into one final car. There's 6 reasons why you're going to love it, but there's a lot of other reasons, as you've seen as well. I'd love to know what you think about the looks, etc. So let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this episode of RBR, then please do like and subscribe. Your support is hugely appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time.